Okay, I promised you that at some point there's going to be a video that doesn't start off with a personal life story, but I've always had a knack for the theatrics, so you're simply going to have to deal with it. I have to put my minor in writing and my years of acting experience to use somehow, and it's gonna be here. It's the winter of 2017, and I'm living in an apartment on campus. I was a bit of a recluse, and there were only 4 people that I really talked to consistently, those 4 being my mom, my current best friend, Trent, and my ex-best friend that I've mentioned in videos before, Clark, and his girlfriend at the time, Lynn, who I had become relatively friendly with myself. Since I was the only person amongst my friends who was living on their own, everyone would often come over to my place to chill and enjoy life, when I wasn't depressed, that is. And trust me, even though I am a pretty big introvert, I tried my best. I hosted an Oscars party for a large group of people, Clark and I would shoot videos together, and I would even have a girl over every now and then. But nothing, and I mean nothing, would compare to our Fridays. Every Friday, Clark would come over at the beginning of the day, since neither of us had class or work, and we would work on videos for half the day and watch movies as a reward for the other half. You should have seen me. I had schedules drawn up for work time and breaks and everything. If only I could put that organization into my everyday life, but that's another problem for another time. Anyways, while the filming was amazing and fun and all, the story of this video really comes into play in the film section of things. There was one Friday that neither of us could meet up in the morning, as he had to work and I had a meeting for a group project, so we decided to meet up in the evening instead, and he asked if he could bring Lynn, which I said was completely fine. He also left the film choice up to me, which he usually did, but I was finding it a bit more difficult than usual. You see, Clark and I were in that phase of life where good movies were all we wanted to watch. Sure, we would go catch stinkers in the theater when we had the chance, but whenever we had a bountiful array of options at our fingertips, we would choose the classics. We were both taking intro courses to film studies and production, and we both knew far more than everyone else in the program, so naturally we overestimated our knowledge, as most university students do. 2 big fishes in a small pond, if you will. Getting back on track, after driving to the Jimmy John's on campus and purchasing a couple subs for Clark and Lynn, I went back to my apartment and started to scour different streaming services for films, but there wasn't anything that tickled my fancy at the particular moment. So I ended up going to my last resort, which was searching for trailers on YouTube. Even more so than in modern times, I was really into watching every trailer that came out, so the majority of my recommended and suggested tabs were actually movie trailers. When I opened up the YouTube app on my Xbox One, I saw the usual culprits of recently uploaded videos from my favorite creators, but smack dab in the middle was a title that instantly drew my attention. It read as follows: Zoombies trailer 2016 horror trash movie. I had never in my life seen a film described as a trash movie, and actively going out of the way to brand a movie as such definitely piqued my interest. I also figured that it could be the perfect opportunity to record our first commentary track while we watched, which was something I had wanted to do for a very long time. So I set up my Blue Yeti in the middle of the living room table and waited for their arrival. They eventually came, and after we explained to Lynn the reason we would be recording, we started watching Zoombies, and I can say, without a doubt, that it was one of the best experiences that I have ever had. I had always enjoyed the casual B-movie, but this was on a whole other level. Everything was so incompetently made that I couldn't even process what was being put in front of me. In those 80 minutes, I laughed more than I had in the past 6 months combined. The acting, the special effects, the story, everything was perfectly crafted to produce the worst product possible. It was as clear as day that it was all intentional, and the 3 of us had a better movie night than we had ever had. Unfortunately, all great things have to come to an end, and after hanging out for a while once the film finished, Clark and Lynn left me to my own devices. They even left a little later than they had anticipated because we couldn't stop talking about the absolute wonder that was Zoombies. So as I sat in my apartment alone with nothing going on until Sunday morning, I had one urge and one urge only. I wanted more. I'd remembered a video from a YouTuber that I really enjoyed called Zaptai about properties often referred to as so bad it's good, which was a phrase I had commonly seen on the internet. I knew and had seen properties on the base level, such as The Room and the Birdemic films and God's purest creation, Norm of the North, as well as being an avid viewer of Best of the Worst like every single pretentious film student is. But I had never really cared to delve deeper than that before my heavenly experience with Zoombies. For the next couple of hours, I thoroughly scavenged the internet for titles that would fall under the aforementioned moniker and gathered them all into a checklist on my notes app. Then, for the next 24 hours, considering my sleep schedule was completely screwed up, I went on a binge of all of the classics. Monos, The Hands of Fate, the original Breen trilogy, Battlefield Earth, Food Fight, and Samurai Cop were amongst the feast of terrible brilliance I gorged myself on. It was exhilarating, almost as if I was discovering a completely new sensation on my taste buds. My cinematic palette was being expanded by the minute, and I was flabbergasted in the best way possible. 24 hours and 2 gluten-free Papa John's pizzas later, I had finished my journey and my outlook on films had completely changed. Sure, I still had a bunch of classics to catch up on, but the feeling of watching someone leaving it all out there unabashedly and failing so spectacularly was a phenomenon that I knew I had to study further. So I did. Over the next couple of years or so, I became hyper-fixated on the art of the awful film. Whether it be theatrical, streaming, or any other means possible, I engrossed myself in the world of horrible films and had an absolute blast in doing so. I wanted to know what made them tick. I wanted to know how you could differentiate one that is self-aware of its rancid nature and one that was completely oblivious to it. I wanted to become, for a lack of a better term, an aficionado on the subject. Flash forward to the present day, and I can say without a doubt that I am. I really ramped up my game when quarantine came into play and I discovered the complete and utter garbage pile that is Prime Video. Considering that just about anyone can put a movie on there, as Amazon is a very big proponent of self-publishing with all mediums, there are so many horribly low-budget projects that I have encountered that the names Gravitas Ventures and Indie Rights Movies make me shudder in both fear and anticipation. It's like I hit the bottom of the iceberg that everyone made videos about for a 6-month time span, but for bad films. In fact, I've watched so many bad movies that the most common rating that I've doled out on Letterboxd is a 0.5 star out of 5 or a 1 out of 10. If you look at me as an absolute psychopath because of that, I can't necessarily blame you. But I like to call myself a connoisseur of trash, thank you very much. So now we get on to the most important part of the video, right? And that is the title of the video itself. I have come to a point in my life where I enjoy almost every single film that I watch, and I've lost that cynicism that is so common in film criticism in the online age. Ultimately, I love all bad films, aside from the sector that are very clearly cash grabs with very little effort put in, which I aptly call the Happy Madison corner, or movies that are just plain offensive. I'll watch every film you could put in front of me, and I will come away from it with a smile and an enjoyable experience. Is that partly because I've found that it's pointless to focus on the negatives and have instead decided to flip them to positives? Yes, but that is a very extensive story for another day on this channel. Perhaps. Are you ready to hear this philosophy? Seriously, it's top secret, and it can't leave this conversation between the two of us. Okay, good. Every single film, other than those in the categories I just mentioned, is somebody's everything. Is something like Battlefield Earth an objectively terrible film? Yes, but that film was lots of people's magnum opus that they put months, if not years, into developing and bringing to the big screen. If you listen to the commentary track for the film from director Roger Christian, he says things like this.
I love this shot. I think these are kind of epic, mythic parts of the journey, and this to me is because within a few 12 minutes you've twisted from primitive into science fiction world,
into human world, and now the actual technology of the cyclos we're discovering slowly.
George Lucas was grilling me on these. How did you do this? How did you put these together for this kind of money? And I think they're a testament to everybody involved.
Right.
absolute passion and dedication to pull this off.
I'm aware that he sounds delusional to us viewers, but you can really tell that he cares about the product that he's produced. So why can't I reciprocate that feeling by respecting the film and enjoying it to its fullest? Sure, it may not be in the way that Christian intended it to be enjoyed, but if I went up to him and said, "Hey, I loved your film," which isn't a lie, would the reasoning behind that love really make a difference? I have an immense amount of love for so many bad films, so much so that every year one of those so bad it's good classics ends up making it into my top 20 favorite movies of the year. Agent Jade Black, Playing with Fire, The Hurricane Heist, Wish Upon, and Monster Trucks are all films that I love to death that I put above films like Bad Education, Midsommar, Thoroughbreds, and Baby Driver. And instead of hating them for everything they aren't, I love them for everything that they are. Once you drop those walls that have rigidly confined your perspective on film and let yourself view cinema as not only one of the best mediums of art in the entire world, but also as a fun time that requires a non-serious mindset, then you can fully realize the greatness of bad films. Wait, did I just defend Marvel movies there? Actually, scrap this whole video. Maybe I'm just a masochist or something like that. I don't know.
Just hanging out with the family, having ourselves